Welcome to another Figuring Out Japan video. We sell all the coolest Japanese figurines and collectibles straight out of Japan, and you can find out more details about us in the description of this video, including our Facebook page and our online store. So I will just give that shameless plug there. We do sell figures from the new movie, and quite a few of them are already out in Japan, even though the film hasn't actually been released overseas yet. So if you are looking to get some goods, by all means, check out the links or the link in the description and the comment, or you can just Google Figuring Out Japan. So as you would see from the title, this video is about the new Dragon Ball film Broly. I'm going to cover two things in this video. First, what actually happens in the movie, and the second thing is what I thought about the movie. Therefore, as you can tell from the title, there are spoilers, okay? So if you don't want to know what happens, then don't watch it. But I will say that there's probably not that much kind of story with it. But anyway, so it's up to you whether you want to keep listening. Because of that, I will spend more time about my personal thoughts on the film, because I think most people, if you haven't seen the film, then I'll sort of try and say as little as possible, although I will tell you what happens. And then a lot of people who watch it have already seen the film, so there's not much point in me spending a lot of time talking about what happens. So let's jump into it. So what happens? So the film starts 41 years. I should also mention as well, I'm sort of doing this video off memory. So I haven't done a whole bunch of like detailed research. You can tell it's a pretty rough video. I'm sorry there isn't footage and stuff. I can't show that obviously because of copyright and whatever. So it's a bit of a rough and dirty type of video. I do apologize in advance if I make any mistakes. So yeah, by all means leave a comment and correct me. So the film starts with, so there's kind of three timelines. So firstly, we have King Cold telling the Saiyans that he is retiring and he's allowing Frieza to take over the Empire. We then also see King Vegeta see his son Vegeta when he's a tiny baby, and he learns that there is actually a baby that has supposedly more power than his own son, which of course is Broly. He gets very upset. He basically exiles Broly and sends him to an uninhabited planet, and he then summons Broly's father, Paragus, and tells him this. Paragus then steals a ship and goes after Broly and finds him. However, unfortunately, the ship gets broken, and therefore Paragus and Broly are stuck on this planet. It then goes 5 years forward in time, where we see planet Vegeta be destroyed by Frieza, which we've seen many times. And we also see Goku being sent off to the planet Earth. Then it goes into the present time, so basically the Dragon Ball Super timeline, and Goku and Vegeta are training on Earth. We see that Bulma had assembled 6 of the Dragon Balls. However, Frieza arranges 2 of his low-powered henchmen to take the Dragon Balls. So the gang then go to look for the 7th, as does the 2 henchmen. They eventually meet, and Frieza then goes to Earth in order to summon the dragon. Meanwhile, there's also 2 of Frieza's other henchmen out in space, and by chance they come across the distress signal from Paragus's ship that he stole all those years ago, and they effectively save or pick up Paragus and Broly. They take him to Frieza, and then Frieza takes basically everyone along with planet Earth. So now everyone's on Earth, and then from there, there's basically this massive fight with Broly and Vegeta. Then Broly fights Goku. And I don't remember exactly at what point this happens, but Frieza asks Paragus, hey, is this the limit of Paragus's power? He says yes. So Frieza then kills Paragus because he remembers when Goku became Super Saiyan, he saw Krillin die. So then he yells out to Broly, hey, your father's dead. and Broly becomes a Super Saiyan. Then Goku and Vegeta, they use fusion. They become Gogeta. They become Super Saiyan God Gogeta. Or I think the technical name is Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Gogeta. And then they can beat Broly. And then just before they defeat and kill Broly, one of the henchmen, Chilai, uses the Dragon Balls to wish Broly back to the planet that they picked him up from, not as punishment, but to save him. And then those two henchmen, Chilai and Limo, then go back to the planet that Broly was on. And that's basically where the film ends. So yeah, that's pretty much. Of course, I skimmed over a lot of other more minor details, but that's effectively the story. So let's talk about some of the things that I personally liked and disliked about the movie. Now, again, these are purely my opinions. I know that Toriyama Akira was the one who did a lot of the writing and the story for this, so I know some people might get a bit upset if I say anything bad about it. Overall, I thought the movie was very good and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But let's get into some of the things that I liked and didn't like about it. So, firstly, the good stuff. So, I liked the movie length. The film was a bit over an hour and a half. I think it was about an hour and 40 minutes. And from memory, most of the other Dragon Ball movies over the years have been roughly like 50 minutes, thereabouts. Maybe the more recent ones have been a little bit longer. So this was a much longer, it's kind of a stretch, I think, to call something less than an hour a movie, but this was a very long film. And so there's a lot to enjoy, there's a lot to take in with this film. Secondly, the fighting. The fighting was really top notch. And I have to admit, I'm still very used to the old kind of cell animation. I know the newer Dragon Ball Super uses a different style of sort of computer generated animation. But I thought the fighting was really good, and you just felt the punches. There's moments where like one character will smash another character into the ground or something. You just felt it, and even though I've watched a lot of anime and fighting and things over the years, I really kind of walked out of watching the movie thinking, man, that was full on. That was really quite something, and probably I, I would say roughly half the film, probably more than half the film, is actually fighting, and it's really sort of top notch, heavy fighting. So of course, a lot of people watch Dragon Ball for that, so you definitely won't be disappointed with that. Um, Next was the comedy. There wasn't a lot of comedy in this, but I do feel that comedy is part of Dragon Ball, and there certainly was some comedic moments. One of the funniest parts of the film is when Goku and Vegeta asked Bulma, "Why were you getting the Dragon Balls anyway?" And she said, "I wanted to wish for 5 years younger." And then Goku says, "Well, why only 5 years?" And she says, "Well, it's got to be natural. You can't just suddenly be much, much younger because people will be suspicious." It then flashes to Frieza, and Frieza's asked the question, "What were you going to use the Dragon Balls for?" And Frieza says, "To become 5 centimeters taller." And then he's asked the same question, why only 5 centimeters? And he says, "Well, if it's more than 5 centimeters, it's suspicious and it's not natural. I want people to think that I'm still growing." So I thought that was quite a sort of funny part of the film. And then the last thing that I really liked about the film was that it actually explored part of the Saiyan history. I think most fans of the series, they love the Saiyans, they love all that story. My favorite saga of the whole Dragon Ball universe is the Frieza Saga. So, it was always interesting that they go back. We are treated, of course, to some pretty, awesome scenes with King Vegeta. We see Nappa with hair. We see, young Vegeta and all that sort of stuff. So, I think anything associated with the Saiyans is always going to be pretty popular. So now with some of the things that I didn't particularly like about the film. So the first is that this film was about Broly. Now I know there's a lot of Broly fanboys out there. I know there's a lot of people who love Broly. I like Broly too, but I think it's a really wasted opportunity to not create new characters, and there really weren't any new characters in this film, or at least any new major characters in this film. And of course, the last movie we got, Katsuno F, or Resurrection of F, was also the old character of Frieza. And as much as I love Frieza and the Saiyans and everything, I think they really should have created a new character, because we've had some really cool characters over the years from the movies. Garlic Jr., Turles, Lord Slug, Cooler, Broly, of course, the androids, the other androids, of course, Bojack, Janemba. There's been a lot of really good ones. So when I first saw that there was going to be a new movie about Broly, I have to admit my initial reaction was a bit of disappointment. I'm like, another Broly film? I've already had 3 Broly films. How many times do we need to see this big crazy Super Saiyan? So I personally would have preferred them using or doing another character. The second thing, and this is quite possibly the biggest complaint about the movie, is that they completely rewrite some history here. Now, I know technically Dragon Ball movies are not supposed to be considered canon, but I feel that in this film they did make quite an effort to sort of weave this into the existing story. And so, as somebody watching it, it does seem to me that I'm supposed to feel that this is actually canon and part of the story. But there are some really key things that are just completely rewritten, in particularly with the kind of, I don't know, it's probably like 5 minutes with the second timeline where we see planet Vegeta be destroyed and we see Goku being sent away. Now, I'm pretty much entirely relying here on the special Bardock, the Father of Goku. I'm sure you've all seen it. And basically, in that film, it shows. Basically, the story is that Bardock is fighting with his friends or his comrades, and they're fighting this race of living. I'm going to call them people, even though they're not technically humans or whatever. And that race has an ability to see into the future. And before Bardock kills them, there's like one that's like half alive. He attacks Bardock, and he transfers the ability to Bardock to see into the future. Bardock then sees the future. He sees the destruction of planet Vegeta. He sees himself defeating Frieza. So then he races to planet Vegeta, especially when he realizes that Dodoria and Frieza basically betrayed them and killed his comrades. He races back to planet Vegeta. He faces Frieza head on. Frieza kills Bardock along with planet Vegeta. Of course, just before Bardock dies, he realizes that it wasn't him that defeats Frieza, it's his son Goku. And that's how the story ends. The other key part in that film is, I think, and again, this is just from memory because I haven't seen it for a while, but there's a scene where Bardock is asked, "Hey, do you want to see your son?" And Bardock says, "No, I'm not interested in seeing my son. I don't really care." The scene that we see here in this film is very different because it shows Bardock actually saving Goku. He actually steals a space pod and then puts Goku inside it, and it's Bardock that actually sends Goku to Earth and kind of saves him. That is not what happened in the special, and the special is supposed to be a canon. That's the difference between a special and a movie. So it completely changes who Bardock is. Instead of being this cold-hearted, fighting maniac Saiyan, we actually see a much softer, caring, fatherly side of Bardock. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it completely changes the character of who Bardock actually is and what actually happens. And I didn't really like the fact that they changed that. Now I'm going to digress a little bit here, but it's a bit like in Star Wars where fans debate who shot first, Han Solo or Greedo. If you don't know the history of that, you can Google it and look it up yourself. But fans hate that because basically George Lucas changed the original Star Wars film and changed the order. And so Han Solo, people debate, is he this cold-hearted killer that just kills anybody, or was he doing it in self-defense? So I really didn't like how they actually did that. And there was also even one part there where it mentions that Vegeta has a younger brother who is killed along with Planet Vegeta. And I'm just like, what? Like, you can't just do that. You can't just throw in here that Vegeta actually had a younger brother. So I really didn't like that. Now, just a fun little fact as well. So we are treated to a really cool scene where we see Goku's mother, and we actually see, like their house and stuff. This actually is not entirely new. There was a special manga release called, I forget the exact name. We actually sell it. It's something called like Jacko Galactic Police. So you know the character Jacko, that like alien guy from Dragon Ball Super. There's actually a one-off manga release, and at the back of that there is actually, I think it's like 20 pages showing Goku's mother and Goku being sent off in space. So although it's the first time we see that in anime form, it's not the first time that we've actually kind of seen that whole story thing. So moving on to the next thing that I didn't particularly like about this film, we don't really see the minor characters. Now, I know people are going to roll their eyes and say, hey, who really cares about the minor characters? But for me, I felt a bit sad, because it's a bit hard to really get that feeling that, hey, this is Dragon Ball when you don't see, like, there was no Chi Chi, there was no Gohan, there was no Master Roshi, um, there was no Krillin, no Yamcha, no Tien, no, like, nearly anybody. There's basically Goku, Vegeta, Bulma. We see Trunks, young Trunks, and Goten very quickly. I think we see Goten. Um, we see Bills, Whis. That's about it. So yeah, I thought that was a bit sad. Um, Next was, I thought there were some scenes there where some characters really acted out of character. They did something that normally they would not do. So, for example, at one point, Broly is fighting Vegeta, and then all of a sudden Goku's like, "Hey, it's my turn," and Vegeta says nothing, and Goku just starts fighting Broly. And I'm like, but that's not Vegeta. Vegeta would always be like, the Saiyan prince with pride, and like, I would rather die than let you fight in my place, Goku. So that was one example. There was another example where Piccolo is talking to Goku telepathically, and he says, "Oh, I'm not going to help you because I would just get in the way." And I'm like, Piccolo would never say that. Like, even if he knows he's just going to get in the way, he would still be there in the thick of things. And it's kind of sad how some major characters, even like Piccolo, are really just take a complete backseat in everything. And it's really all about Goku and Vegeta these days. And then the last part, and this is actually the last line, the very last line of the movie. So Goku actually goes and gives Broly like a house and stuff because he's living on a uninhabited planet. And then those two henchmen ask Goku, uh, "What's your name?" And he goes, "My name's Goku, or Kakarot." And I just shivered. I'm like, what? Like, Goku has always said he's not Kakarot. He's not the Saiyan that was sent to Earth to destroy Earth. He's very adamant that he is an Earthling and he's Goku and he's a good guy and everything. And Goku would never say that. Now, okay, Vegeta's called him Kakarot for years. This story was about the Saiyans in the history, so yeah, okay, but I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all, especially for the film to end that way. Um, and then I suppose the last thing, and this is, I sort of feel like this is a bit like Dragon Ball Super in a way in general. And as great as this film is, and as great as Dragon Ball Super has been and everything, I feel that it's a bit disappointing that, just for me personally, that I feel like Dragon Ball is always going for the sugar hit, the drug hit. It's like the next form and the next thing, and like, even if you think about the story and the Kais. Let's start with the Kais. So first you had Cuddy, then you had Kami, then you had King Kai, then you had the four Kais and the Grand Kai, which was anime only. Although I think one of the other Quadrant Kais, the South Kai, was shown in the manga. Then you had the Supreme Kai. Then you've got the what's his name? Um, Starts with Z. I forgot. The little dude from Dragon Ball Super, who's like the king of the whole universe. Then you have like multiple universes, like 13 universes. Like what? You can't do that. You can't create a multiple universe with like saiyans and. I didn't like that. I really didn't like that in Dragon Ball Super. It's like Star Wars and they create another universe. It's like, oh, actually, Darth Vader's still alive or something. And then all these forms, like, it's quite confusing. It's like, bang, Super Saiyan, bang, God, bang, Super Saiyan God, and I sort of wish that Dragon Ball goes a little bit back more towards its roots, where it's more focused on story and adventure. And Dragon Ball's an amazing franchise because it has no limitations, right? I mean, time travel is possible, space travel is possible, bringing people back from the dead is possible. You can create any race of people. You can do anything you want. And I actually would love them. I felt like this for a long time to make like an anime about how did King Cold create this sort of business of buying and selling planets, and how did everything start with the Saiyans, then other races, and like there's so many limitless possibilities because there's lots of planets and lots of races and all that kind of thing. I think stories are always cool when you see a prequel because you know what it leads to. Like again, I'm sorry I keep going back to Star Wars, but you see like Anakin, and it's like, oh, he's the one that becomes Darth Vader. So um, rather than just like, okay, we're saving the world. Okay, now we're saving the universe. Okay, now we're saving all 13 universes or whatever. Actually, go back to basics a bit and just focus on the story. And so I would have much preferred in this movie that they actually just almost entirely focused on kind of the whole prequel thing, like the whole before Planet Vegeta was destroyed. I would have enjoyed that, I think, much more. But I knew that wasn't going to happen because, of course, you see Super Saiyan God, Goku, and Vegeta and everything in the marketing. So that's just me personally. I'm just throwing it out there. I want to know what other fans out there think about that. Um, so yeah, now I'm just going to end on three very quick sort of fun facts. So firstly, actually, the whole idea of buying planets and the whole like Frieza's business model thing. Toriyama Akira actually got the idea from real estate agents. Frieza was actually based on the idea of real estate agents because when he created that story, the Japanese bubble had burst, and like property prices and everything just plummeted. So that's just a random little fact put in there. Another interesting thing here in this movie is that um, Broly's father actually says he wants to get revenge on Vegeta because his father sent Broly away, and Frieza's like, oh yeah, that's fine. I want Goku because of course Goku was the one who nearly killed Frieza. But it's interesting when you think about it because it was actually Trunks that killed Frieza. So it's interesting how Broly's camp wants to get Vegeta for something his father did, and Frieza should want to get Vegeta for something his son did. But of course, Frieza doesn't. I don't think he ever actually knows that Trunks is Vegeta's son, and he never really asks. Like, who is that Super Saiyan that killed me? So I thought that was an interesting thing. That yeah. Anyway, and the last thing is, well, what is this movie going to actually mean? Is it going to morph into another series, kind of a bit like how Battle of Gods turned into, Dragon Ball Super? Will this movie turn into sort of the next series? Now, there's a couple of little hints that I picked up on. The first is that Frieza actually says that he kind of wants Bardock. He wants to sort of, sorry, not Bardock, Broly. He wants to control Broly because Frieza now realizes he can't defeat Goku and Vegeta because there's two of them, and it's 2 versus 1. So you can tell Frieza wants to sort of manipulate Broly to fight 2-on-2. The other interesting thing, and I could be way off the mark here and overthinking things, But Broly does actually develop a deep and, well, kind of a relationship with one of Frieza's henchmen, Chilai, which is actually a female. And it's quite clear that Chilai actually does feel affection for Broly. For example, that green furry thing around Broly, he actually explains that it was the ear of this creature that he developed a friendship with that his father cut off. And he was never able to meet the creature again because his father forbade it. And so we kind of see this softer side, this sweet, innocent side of Broly, who, like, at one point doesn't even know how to eat a chocolate bar because he's never had food wrapped in something. So Chilai clearly develops a kind of relationship, or at least feelings, for Broly. And the fact that she's female, we don't see many female characters in the Dragon Ball universe. So that could be a deliberate thing where perhaps they have a child. Who knows? And then that's like a next Saiyan or something. I don't know. I could be way off the mark with that, but I thought that was interesting that that was thrown in there. Not that I'm all like, for all the feminists saying, female characters are only there to have kids, but to me, like, Dragon Ball has never really, aside from Bulma, there haven't really been any like really important female characters in the story. So to me, it was interesting that they did actually, have this female character in what's really a, rough and rugged environment, working for Frieza. And they deliberately seem to establish that, yes, she does actually have feelings and does care about Broly, and she actually takes the remote from Broly's father and destroys it so he can't like control and harm Broly. But anyway, that was a long video. I'm really interested to know what you guys think about the movie once you see it. So yeah, please leave a comment below. It'd be interesting to see the discussions that come out of that. I know I probably talked a bit more about the negatives of the film. I think it's very easy to sit there and criticize, and sometimes the good things that happen, you don't really realize them. You tend to realize the negative things, but when things work, you don't really realize necessarily that they're working or they're great. You don't notice things until they're done bad, is what I'm trying to say. So even though I may have talked about quite a lot of things that I may not have liked, I thought overall the film was good. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and yeah, I hope you guys do as well. And yeah, like I said at the beginning of the video, there's been a lot of merchandise released for the new movie, and we do have them available from our store, Figuring Out Japan. And again, you can search online or find the links directly in the description. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, please like or dislike the video if you didn't like it, and subscribe for more great content from Japan. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.